The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
And welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to Wrestling Unwrapped. I am your host, the one who is truly alive, Mr. Patrick Henry. And joining me as always, the one who usually ends up taking over, Mr. Harry Cross. How are you, Harry?
I'm okay, although for the sake of tonight, I'm the man who broke the W2M network.
You are not as good looking. Sorry, but no.
Aw, sad. Tonight's episode of Wrestling Unwrapped is a presentation of the W2M network. You can find us online, www.w2mnet.com. As of right now, you can find written reviews by myself and Patrick, as well as previews for both the G1 shows from New Japan that happened over the course of this current weekend, this 4th of July weekend here in the States, as well as the preview for Slammiversary, which is currently happening in about 20 minutes-ish. We're recording this a little early. Just because you got heat with the workers because of the comments you made doesn't mean you get to be the joke, Essa.
It's not my fault. She looks like a skunk.
I dare you to say that to her face. Like, I double dog dare you. I may even triple dog dare you. In addition, we are a... So you got me all screwed up now. Can I finish my plugs? Sure. In addition, we are brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. You know, he really doesn't have a whole lot of NXT-related merchandise up in this store right now. But if I could make a recommendation, if you are a fan of the creator, you can pick up things related to Triple H, including the game DVD, as well as the King of Kings DVD inside of the Madhouse Toy Chest. Also, you can find other DVDs, action figures, magazines, posters, VHS tapes, and pretty much anything else you can think of wrestling-related inside of the Madhouse Toy Chest. That is stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. We're off to a fantastic freaking start, Ketsa.
Question for you, real quick. Did you actually intend to call him the creator right there?
Yes, I did.
Okay, just making sure.
It was on purpose because of that's his role with NXT.
Because lately he hasn't been destroying a damn thing. Anyway.
And we are, of course, covering the very first NXT Special. But we're not
mentioned that.
Yeah, we're not taking over. At least not yet.
No, that would be the second one. However, in this case, we have to go all the way back to February of 2014. WWE had freshly launched this brand they called the WWE Network. You may have heard of it. It's not that expensive. I can never remember the price, though. And they decided...
Yeah, you'd think they'd come up with a catchy marketing slogan for that or something.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Anyway, WWE realized that if they were going to be doing live events on the network, they needed a test. Not that test.
Rest in peace, that test.
That's the one with the nonsense lyrics for a theme song. So, they decided that the first ever event, which would be, I believe, the third day of the network, started on a Monday, and this was a Wednesday, or things weren't two.
I think NXT TakeOver, NXT Arrival was actually on a Thursday, because back then, in the early days of the network, NXT was on Thursday nights.
That sounds right, because you get a promo during it. That Thursday, and I had completely forgotten that it was originally on Thursday, because the event was on Wednesday. Why? Anyway, so the first Thursday after, Elimination Chamber, WWE would hold a live event, and it would be from Wholesale University down in Winter Park, Florida, and it would be headlined by the first ever NXT match, Adrian Neville going up to the NXT champion, Bo-lieve. Yes, that bullshit. Got it. So, how did it go? Well, I mean, we kind of know, considering that they still have NXT shows today, but that's neither here nor there. So, what better way to show that the network is here and it's here to stay than by having their developmental have super special issues and all. You ready, Harry?
Actually, I have to pull up Wikipedia for this, so go ahead and give me a quick second.
One.
Har, jackass.
As they always do, Harry will eventually give us the results from the 6 match, because all titles were on the line, along with a absolute dynamite first match. All right, I'm good. Real quick, that NXT Commissioner, John Bradshaw Mayfield. Yes, fire JBL.
We cannot get away from this jackass.
Luckily, he doesn't make an appearance on this show. Thank God.
No, the rest of the roster does, though.
Yes, never mind. Before we get
shall
to that, yes, we shall. As always, here's Harry with the results from NXT Arrival.
All right, so since NXT was a WWE Network special and not a DVD, I did not actually manually time these out. These match times come to you courtesy of the NXT Arrival Wikipedia page. Take them for what you will.
They're usually pretty close.
Well, we had this conversation about one of the shows that we did where we noticed that within a couple of seconds on every match between my times and what the Wikipedia page had listed. So
I said close.
I'm agreeing. Can I start the results now?
You start? Yes.
Jesus. Anyway. Our opening contest sees Cesaro of the People defeat Sami Zayn via pinfall with the neutralizer at 22 minutes and 55 seconds. No, that is not a typo. They literally got 1/6 of the show to themselves.
Can you blame them?
We'll talk about it in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Mojo Rawley defeats CJ Juice Robinson Parker via hyperdrive. The earthquake tremor splash.
The whoopsie.
No, that was off the top rope for the whoopee cushion.
No, I didn't say the whoopee cushion. I said the whoopsie.
I don't get that reference. It tells me I don't want to. At 3 minutes and 25 seconds. The Ascension, back when they, mattered, retained the NXT Tag Team titles by defeating Too Cool, son of a biscuit. Apparently nostalgia was a thing when it came to tag titles in 2014. We'll talk about it when we get to the match. Connor O'Brien pins Scotty 2 Hottie, I believe, with the Fall of Man at 6 minutes and 40 seconds.
Sure.
I don't care to look it back up, frankly. Paige retains the NXT Women's title, tapping out Emma with the PTO, although not named at this particular point. So I think William Regal just called it a Scorpion crosswalk at 12 minutes and 54 seconds. Tyler Breeze and Xavier Woods swept away no contest at 35 seconds. Thanks to interference by then still Alexander Rusev and and Lana. Well, she didn't actually interfere. She was just kind of there. And your main event sees Adrian Neville win the NXT Championship from Bo Dallas, apparently Neville Bo-lieve, in a ladder match at 16 minutes and 2 seconds. And I just popped you early with that Tyler Breeze joke. Anyway. You're still trying not to laugh. I hate you. That joke was gold and you know it. All right, let's get started with our review.
Yes. So the network has just debuted. NXT wants to go to the next level. What better way to show that NXT has arrived than by having their first ever ladder match? And only about 1/3 of the people see it. This is NXT Arrival. And as Harry mentioned, kicking things off, it is Sami Zayn. I think it's just Cesaro by this point, because this was during the time where nobody was allowed to have a first name. So all of a sudden, or no one was allowed to have a full name. Big E became Big E. Cesaro became Cesaro, and eventually Alexander Rusev would become Rusev.
Neville would drop his Adrian.
Yeah, that as well. That wouldn't be for a while, but yeah.
But I believe you're correct. I believe he's just off of losing the Antonio and Cesaro.
Yes, but he is still part of the Americans at this point. Because reasons. Luckily, he came out here on his own, and as Harry mentioned, they go, well, if you include pre-match and post-match, they probably go almost the damn order of the show, if you include everything.
Given entrances and post-match interaction, it's probably about a half an hour.
Yeah, and overall show is only, and it's going to sound weird to any NXT fans, it's under 2 hours. I think the official time I saw was 1:54.
1:54:35, I believe, was the number that I saw when I was checking out the time stream on the timestamp on the actual info bar.
But it's counting. Anyway. So yes, this is the 4th match, and many had already hyped this up due to what they had done in their 3rd match, which was a 2 out of 3 falls match. That match essentially puts NXT on the map. I don't really know of anyone who can make the argument after Zayn and Cesaro had their 2 out of 3 falls match. So they thought, what better way to help show that NXT has, quote-unquote, arrived than by having them go at it one more time for the sake of Sami trying to earn Cesaro's respect. And then, as mentioned on the pre-show, Commissioner JBL announced that this will kick off the show. So, it's kind of one of those things of you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And make a first impression they did. Holy crap.
Do you think we're still talking about this show the way that we're talking about it now, if anything else had opened the show based on the other matches on the card?
Absolutely not.
I think the only one that you can make the argument of the other matches on the show that could have been okay in this spot is Paige and Emma.
Yeah, that's seriously about it. And obviously you're not going to have the ladder match go first. That's the only other match that you could have gotten away with.
Although I do think that Too Cool would have been an early pop for the live crowd as well, so maybe Too Cool in the tag titles. But then you don't have...
Not in a 6-minute squash. Let's be honest. That's
well, I don't disagree with that.
Zayn and Cesaro pretty much set one hell of a precedent. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, going through all of the NXT takeovers, I believe this is still one of the longest matches in NXT, we'll say, live special history. Number one, I believe it's still the Iron Man match, the Iron Woman match, I should say, being 30 minutes long. But this is actually still one of the longest matches we've ever had in NXT in terms of network specials. And they just absolutely go at it and have an absolutely amazing match. You could, as a matter of fact, this would kind of...
Patrick?
Yeah?
I hate to rain on your parade, but it's not even the longest NXT match of that particular calendar year on pay-per-view. Upon looking it up on Sporticle, the Fatal 4-Way match, the main event of the final NXT pay-per-view of the year from December, went 24 minutes and 12 seconds.
I can say with 100% assurance you're wrong about that.
I'm seeing bell-to-bell of 24-12 for TakeOver Fatal 4-Way.
Not that part. It wasn't the last one. The last one was our Revolution.
I think you might be right about that, actually.
I know I'm right.
Well,
That's Sammy Dream.
Guess what?
And then TCL follows that.
Well, guess what? The main event of our Evolution went 23 minutes and 18 seconds, which is still longer, so ha!
Anyway, I said one of.
Carry on.
I'll bet the Iron Man match is the longest.
It does appear to be, yes.
Anyway, I mean, Cesaro and Zayn absolutely go at it for the entirety of the match, and at times you would see strings of like 3 to 4 to even 5 counters before hitting a move. And some of the moves are just things you do not see in WWE. Nowadays you will never see Zayn hit Code Red. Barely see John Cena hit Code Red. Cesaro actually wins via the neutralizer, which is a shock. Seeing Cesaro counter the through the turnbuckle diving tornado DDT was my first, going nuts moment of this entire show. This match, to me, just sets an unbelievable precedent for what was to come for NXT. Now, it may have taken a couple more shows for them to really get the hang of it, but there's no better match to kick off a feud. You know, this made NXT a feud on the network. This made it must be. And you couldn't have found 2 better workers, and it almost makes you remember, hey, Cesaro's kind of good at what he does. Thanks.
Nothing? Oh, no, I'm not going to deny Cesaro's greatness at all. I think this match was more about Sammy than it was Cesaro, though, because Cesaro was more of an established name. This right here was Sami Zayn's way of arriving, so to speak, to the casual WWE fan. I think there were a lot of people who had subscribed to the network who probably gave this show a chance in order to see what the streaming capacity was going to be like. Obviously, they'd get a very ugly wake-up call when it comes out a little bit later on in the show. But
I found that to be a gorgeous wake-up call.
No, I mean the capacity in regards to the wake-up call. I mean in regards to the issues that they had during Tyler and Tyler's entrance.
I know what I said.
And I'm just now getting that. Anyways. No, so. You cut me off midpoint again, and now I lost my train of thought. All right, so this was Sami Zayn arrival to the casual WWE audience because, as I was saying, a lot of them were tuning in for the first time to see this particular show here, not to mention to test the WWE Network and to get kind of a glimpse of what everybody had been talking about over the course of the last year and a half when it came to NXT. Because NXT had been a thing since, I want to say, June of 2012. after it stopped being that pseudo-reality show that it was for like the 4 years prior to that.
I just want to say real quick, given, the timeliness of it being brought up, imagine if that non-existent season actually did happen.
I hear people talking about this. I don't think I've ever seen the name listing for that non-existent season, so I really can't speak to it.
The top 3 names for that non-existent season: Big E, Jinder, and Seth Rollins.
NXT certainly be what it became early on in 2012, that's for damn sure.
Yep.
Well, not the developmental version of NXT, because those were all 3 big names when FCW was still a thing as well, with Florida Championship.
Yep. So, anyhow. Shall we carry on then?
Yes, let's move on to our... Are we discussing the... Can I just say real quick here, I want to give credit to something real quick before we go into the next match.
I want to give credit. I know what it is, but yes.
I want to give credit to the NXT production staff. The video staff and stuff that were helping at the show here, they did a fantastic job of helping people who might have been uninitiated with some of the names that they were going to see this evening, helping them become more initiated with them in time for the match that they were going to see happen here. I refer to you to the Mojo Rawley video package that airs right before Mojo's match with CJ Parker, and I think it's fantastic that they did little things like this, and it's something that I think is missing from the mainstream product now. They don't use enough vignettes and stuff like that to help debut people anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely, I believe throughout the entire night, off the top of my head, 5. Which actually, if you think about it, each of these is not like the other. I think you've got Mojo Rawley, Ascension, Paige, Adrian, Neville, and Bo Dallas.
Emma got one as well.
Sure, Emma got one?
Emma got one because they showed her having that really awkward interview.
Oh, yeah. All right. But yeah, it's definitely a good introduction because, and it's something that they would mention. This was probably the largest audience that NXT had ever had. Because I believe by this point, by the time, we'll say the special had started, the network was at about 500,000 buyers.
I believe the official number released was 495,000, which was generally believed to be live stream capacity at the time.
Yeah, that would have been the max number to watch that. Unless you're illegally streaming it, which in that case, you're a jerk.
I am not going to touch that. We're going to move on.
Were you a jerk?
No. I watched the debut NXT TakeOver with one of my friends, actually.
Oh, okay. Good.
And then I just recently rewatched it today in order to prepare for the show on the WWE Network.
Still trying to remember the price. Yeah, it'll come to me eventually.
10 something or other, I think it is.
3, 6, 7. Anyway, our next contest is Xavier Woods coming up to Brodus Clay's music because I forgot that was a thing. No, wrong person. Wow.
CJ Parker, sir.
CJ Parker. Wow. CJ Parker, the Moonchild, taking on Mojo Rawley.
Okay, and this isn't
compared to the Mojo Rawley that I watched rewatching this. Now I'm starting to remember why I like him a lot more now than I did when I watched him at Arrival.
Yes, the only person in WWE history to use more ass-based offense than Yokozuna and Naomi combined.
Well, Asuka.
Hers is more hip than ass, though.
True. Well, actually, and we probably should mention Earthquake, considering they had the exact same finish.
Rest in peace, John Tenta.
Yeah, so the match isn't that great.
That's putting it mildly.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm being nice. The match isn't great, and such it's just really good wrestler for those that may not, well, for those that may kind of recognize the name or anything, CJ Parker / now Juice Robinson wrestles, I believe still wrestles for New Japan.
He does. He was just in the U.S. title tournament on Friday night. He lost in the first round. Spoiler alert.
I'm sure I'm going to get emails about that in 20 minutes after this is posted. Anyway. So, yeah. The match isn't great. And Mojo wins via the rear view and the Earthquake sit down tantrum.
Aftershock,
Sure. That thing. But that's how Mojo wins. He wins via the rear view and the aftershock. So once again, this is Mojo Rawley ass-based offense for a guy who is not 450 pounds. With Earthquake, legitimate finisher, because Earthquake was big. For Naomi, I'll take the finisher. I don't give a damn. For Mojo, no.
Would this be a bad time to say he was making an ass out of himself?
Well,
thank you and good night, everyone.
At the time, the New Age Outlaws were the tag champs.
Yeah, all things old were new again, apparently. I was actually at the pay-per-view where they won the damn tag titles. We've covered it here on Wrestling Unwrapped.
Yeah.
If you're interested, go back into the archives and find the WU review of Royal Rumble 2014.
Why did I see this chain? I think they lost the chain. Anyway. So, Mojo wins. Moving on.
Yeah, not really a whole lot to say. Not really a whole lot to say about this match. Just kind of there, 3 minutes long, there to put over Mojo Rawley. Mojo honestly never really gets his footing in NXT. Never really does anything major. Doesn't really become a factor in NXT until he and Zack Ryder form the Hype Bros.
Yeah, Zack Ryder's last chance, so he kind of made it work.
Well, you know. That's our one plug for that show tonight.
Anyway, our next contest. Speaking of not great.
You know what? I actually don't have an issue with this match, and I'll tell you why. The next contest, and I'm going to go first here because I'm going to explain why I don't have an issue with it. It's for the NXT Tag Team titles as the current Tag Team champions of Connor and Victor, Connor O'Brien and Rick Victor, because apparently no one can have both names in NXT either, take on Too Cool. As I said, everything old is new again in 2014. But here's the difference, though. The Too Cool never really get their footing in this match. It's more or less a 6-minute ass beating by the Ascension. This was done to make...
At least one half of the losing team knew what they were doing.
Yes, I agree. Grandmaster Sexay was actually not a bad workman. I know what you meant. I'm going to go on.
I was about to say, I was going to reach through my phone and strangle you.
I actually think Scotty 2 Hotty would stick around NXT for a little bit of time around this time frame, too, so it really doesn't surprise me that he ended up getting something of a regular gig out of this. But this was specifically here to state the dominance of the tag team champions in NXT that were the Ascension. Of course, if I'm not mistaken, they end up dropping the tag titles at the very next NXT special, and it ends up meaning, well, a whole bunch of nothing in the long run.
Until they smashed up Fashion Vice's office, and that turned out to be nothing as well.
I still say that the team destroying the office needs to be American Alpha. We move on.
Hey, Ascension were in the video. Well, Ascension and a half, because Connor ate Connor. What? But real quick, I should say, yeah, there's not really much they can actually say about this, only because it was essentially, like Eric mentioned, a 6-minute, ass kicking. Yeah, it was cool to see Too Cool. It wasn't too cool to see them, though. I would have preferred, an actual tag team. But I think at the time, NXT was kind of iffy in terms of the tag team scene, because I want to say 2 or 3 of the teams had one person afflicted by an injury, if I'm not mistaken. I may have the time frame messed up, but this was kind of a necessary thing, but as mentioned, it did assert Ascension's dominance, so it did end up paying off. It was kind of funny, though, that, as Harry mentioned, it wouldn't last too long because Ascension would lose the tag titles fairly quickly. I don't remember it being the next one, though. I think it was the one after. So it wasn't TakeOver. Maybe it was Fatal 4-Way?
And now I'm off to Wikipedia again. Thanks.
Oh, boo-hoo. I know it was to the Lucha Dragons.
Yes, 100%. Kalisto and Sin Cara. That I agree with. Beyond that, I don't remember specifically which one it was. I remember reading on Wikipedia it was either the next one or the one after. I think it was the next one, but I'm pulling up the Wikipedia page now, and I will let you know. Speaking of team, well, let's talk about the Ascension a little bit while I do this here. Let's talk about the fact that the NXT booking committee was able to make the Ascension this big deal, and then they've been so thoroughly reamed by the WWE creative staff. Do you think the Ascension will ever have the credibility in the WWE that they had in NXT?
I think we are way too far gone. By the way, it was Fatal 4-Way, so whether the next one is the one after. But I think at this point, after, 2 years now, I think we're way past the point of giving the Ascension any credibility like what they have in NXT. They could have had at least a small chance if they had done anything and, destroyed the Fashion Bo-lieve. But once they lost there, I think, no, their credibility is gone.
Yeah, September 11th, NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way is when the Ascension's reign comes to an end at the hands of the Lucha Dragons.
Told you.
All right, thanks for the raspberry. We can move on to the women's title match, and let's talk about.
Wait. What about you? Do you think they could ever get it back?
Oh no, they're too far gone at this point. I honestly feel like if they don't get outright released, they almost might be better off going back down to NXT and working with the up-and-coming tag teams that the WWE may eventually have plans for.
Ascension versus Heavy Machinery?
Ascension versus Authors of Pain. Yikes.
None of that sounds good.
Okay, but I think TM61 could drag a decent match out of the Ascension.
Once they're not injured?
Yeah, it would require them to stay healthy, which apparently they're not capable of at this point. All right, we move on. I agree, because I think Team 61 is the future of the NXT Tag Team division if Nick and Shane can stay healthy. All right, let's move on. So we have an actual special guest before our next contest. Not that most of the people in the audience cared, but we had a special guest.
And who would that be?
That would be the creator of the Divas Revolution herself. So had to get that out. Had to vent. Needed to get that off my chest. That would be Stephanie McMahon. Are you gonna be able to continue the show?
Sure.
That's twice, by the way.
This one wasn't real.
I'll still take it. The first one was, though, so I'm still winning. Anyways, go ahead. So, I kind of get the reason why they had Stephanie do the speech here, but I feel like it was a waste of time, and it was time that could have gone to having, special in-ring introductions like they do in current-day NXT for these two.
I almost wonder if they were stretching for time at this point with the fact that it ends 6 minutes short, and that was with a lot of stalling.
It wouldn't surprise me in the least, actually.
Granted, one specific stall, there's kind of a reason for it. We'll get to that when we get to the match.
Let's talk the women's title, or excuse me, at this point they were still Divas, so let's talk the Divas title match.
No. NXT has always been the women's championship, so no Divas here.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Stephanie McMahon called them Divas when she made the introduction, because of course she did.
Yeah, so Stephanie McMahon's an idiot, so can't take anything seriously, like you said. She created the Divas Revolution.
Sorry, I'm good. Carry on.
But yes, so Paige, the first ever NXT Women's Champion, is defending World Championship against Emma. Which it was funny to go back and see Bubble Poppy Emma with the fact that by the time she got to the main roster, she made fun of or her dance, even though by the time she got to the main roster, nobody actually knew what the dance was about. They didn't realize that that's pop bubbles. But, that's apparently how you do it. You do it like a snake and you look like you're stealing it. However, the person didn't look like an idiot doing it, and Harry mentioned this to me, and once I thought I got a fighting chuckle out of this, was a certain commentator also doing the Emma dance during Emma's intro. We should mention that the commentary team for this was Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton, and William Regal. And of course, out of the three, William Regal is the one caught on camera doing the Emma dance. Because, of course.
I just want to say William Regal is the GOAT.
A Chris Jericho fan actually calling William Regal the GOAT, not Chris Jericho. You know what happens when you do something like that, Broadhurst? You know what happens?
Do I get moved to Chile where was it that he returned? I forget where they were at. Was it Chile?
No, Japan.
Where were the most recent house shows at that Jericho came back?
Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore.
Singapore, that's it. I knew it was something, whatever. Yes, I'm aware of what happens when I call someone other than Jericho the GOAT. At the same time, though, I about fell off my bed laughing when Regal was caught doing the Emma dance, so it was worth it.
True. Getting into the match itself, third longest match of the show, well worth it. Probably could have actually gone a couple minutes longer, truth be told. But I thought that this was a very, very good match. Little clunky at times, but this was breath of fresh air compared to other matches going on in, late 2013, early 2014. AJ was doing her best to try and change that up on the main roster, but NXT was where it really started. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think the official description I would use for this match is good, not great. And the reason I say that is because I always felt like Paige and Emma would have been capable of more had they actually had the opportunity to get more time to develop an actual story in their match. Other than, this is for the title, Emma's big opportunity, don't blow it.
And she blows it.
Well, you know.
I'm not hungry. I'm not giving you the recipe.
MLW Radio, something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. All right, anyway, moving on. I think it's just terribly unfortunate that this Emma never really got the chance to showcase her in-ring ability on the main roster. She was treated more as a joke on the main roster and didn't actually become anything until she became a super serious, hot-ass evil Emma. Don't get me wrong. I am a fan of super serious, hot-ass evil Emma. But, yeah, this isn't the Emma that we got to see when she first debuted on Monday Night Raw and when she was appearing on SmackDown back then when she first came into the main roster.
I mean, let's be honest. NXT Emma at this time was dancing idiot that can go. Main roster Emma was dancing idiot.
More or less, yes. And Santino's comedic foil, if I recall correctly.
So, dancing idiot. That's what it was. But
right.
I mean,
you're not going to get a disagreement out of me.
It does suck that they weren't given at least a little bit more time, but they made the most of the time they had, and that also included Emma kicking down of Paige's finisher, which I believe either hadn't been done or was a super rare thing at that point. Anyone kicking out of the Paige turner, to the point that, as you mentioned earlier, Paige actually went well in what would become the Paige tap out, but William described absolutely beautifully in mentioning that it was Scorpion cross block.
Let's talk about the importance of Emma kicking out of the Paige turner here as well. This is a move that would win Paige the WWE Divas title no more than a month and a half later, the night after WrestleMania 30.
To one of the largest pops of the entire weekend. I was there, so I know. Sorry.
Done putting yourself over?
Well, at least I'm thinking to put myself over instead of putting someone else's podcast over like we've done multiple times tonight already.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not like we don't do that multiple times every show anyway, so it's nothing new for us.
Anyway. Folks, we've never been known to be, brilliant with podcasters, let's be honest.
Yeah. Professional, we are not.
Absolutely not.
It's one of our more endearing qualities, actually.
So, but yeah. So for Emma to kick out of the Paige turner was definitely a big deal, and like I said, it would cause Paige to have to just keep her into the well, which the PTO would end up becoming more or less one of the anyway. So it would all work out to where she ends up with 2 finishes instead of 1. So I'd say
in my opinion, not to mention, and I might be in the minority that believe this, but in my opinion, that PTO is one of the most vicious-looking submission finishes in WWE history.
I would agree, but not with Paige's version.
Do you mean, Bull Nakano's?
Yes, very good.
Yeah, because I believe she was the one who originated that move in the WWF at the time. As a matter of fact, I believe she used it in the SummerSlam 94 match against Medusa that we've already done here on the W2M Network as well. Wrestling Unwrapped.
Good.
Wrestling Unwrapped reviews WWF SummerSlam 1994, available in the archives.
That's 3.
Yeah, I think that's enough old episodes plugged for one podcast.
Yes, it is. Great, I forgot my thought. Yeah, I completely forgot it.
You were referring to Bull Nakano in regards to the Scorpion Crosswalk.
Oh, I believe that would be cool. That would actually win the championship.
Perhaps on an episode of Raw that was taped in Japan, yes, because if I recall, if memory serves, Medusa retained at SummerSlam 94.
Did, but Bull Nakano would win it off of Medusa, or rather, Alundra Blaze.
Right, and then Alundra will win it back and end up dropping it in a trash can about a year later.
But she didn't want to do it. Anyway. But yes, so Paige retains, and as mentioned, Paige would not actually be the NXT Championship. She would forfeit it after when WWE was championship the night after WrestleMania, causing a tournament that would lead to NXT TakeOver, where they would hold the finals to crown a new champion.
Without looking it up, name the match.
I know of a match. I don't know that it's that match, but Charlotte versus Natalya.
You are correct.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was at TakeOver or if that was the Fatal 4-Way match.
NXT TakeOver, May 22nd. Charlotte with Ric Flair versus Natalya with Bret Hart.
Yes, and the legendary Hart versus Flair rivalry that I still don't understand.
Well, I mean, Bret did take a world heavyweight title off of Ric. And then Ric would win it.
Rivalry.
And then Ric would win it back almost immediately, but neither here nor there. Carry on, sir.
Yes. So come to our next contest. And it's probably going to be our longest talking point of the night, not for the right reason. So why don't we get what actually happened out of the way, and that being Tyler Breeze takes on Xavier Woods. However, before they can even throw a punch, Alexander Rusev comes in, ever-loving hell on both of them, and locks Xavier Woods into the Acolyte to essentially assert Rusev's dominance. At this point, Rusev had already debuted on the roster, taking the Royal Rumble. So this was more of a to assert more dominance Rusev's way.
Well, kind of. Rusev would have debuted at the Rumble, but Rusev was not a regular on WWF television, or WWE television, excuse me.
I said debut.
He would not get his official call-up until, I believe, the night after WrestleMania, when he would start his year-long winning streak that would last until WrestleMania 31. Back by that day. All right, moving on.
When Rocky IV would actually become real life.
Drago! All right.
The 1,000-year legacy starts now. Okay, anyway. I would much rather have Lana over Brigitte Nielsen, but that's neither here nor there. So,
you and about every other red-blooded American male in this country.
I know. Anyway, so that's out of the way. Because let's be honest, nobody cares about that.
No, Rusev Crush is unfortunately secondary when it comes to this particular instance for one very strong occurrence. All right, so if you remember the beginning of the show when I did the results, I very specifically made a joke about Tyler Breeze, repeating his name over and over and over again to the point that I cracked Patrick Ketzel up laughing. The reason that I made that joke, and Patrick kind of touches on it in the types preview for this, which you can see in addition to listening to the review itself over on W2Mnet.com, is that when Tyler Breeze made his entrance on the WWE Network, the WWE Network decided it wanted to replay Tyler over and over and over, and actually the feed died, and there was really nothing they could do. It was stuck in a repetitious loop for the duration of Tyler Breeze's entrance.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it repeated Tyler Breeze's entrance if it didn't outright kick people.
I got neither of those in my case, because I watched this live. So let's put it this way. The Rusev stuff, the crowd inside a Full Sail Arena saw that. The crowd outside of Full Sail Arena, which also is something we probably should bring up about the fact that they oversold the show, causing about 200 people to not be able to get in. Whoops.
Our bad.
They would end up getting an autograph signing with NXT talent that wasn't on the show. Oh.
Yes, because given the choice between actually viewing the first live special and an autograph signing, I'm going to pick the autograph signing.
Well, I paid tickets for the live show.
Ridiculous. They better have gotten refunds. They better have gotten.
I don't know, actually. In my case, though, I just had Tyler Breeze's face. The exact picture that if you check out our Facebook page, when I type up the description for the show, I shared the picture. That's all I had for about the next almost half an hour. And for some reason, and going into that, I had very few issues. I had some issues getting it started, and I think a lot of people did. But the stream, once it got up, was great. And then suddenly it just freezes on Tyler Breeze's face for almost a half an hour. Obviously, 495,000 people, should it have been that many, was a little beyond the capability of the network at this point.
I sincerely doubt that 495,000 people had their network subscriptions open for this event either. I would imagine that number was probably about half that, and it was still having capacity issues.
Thank God they fought to try and fix this before WrestleMania 30.
Oh, heads would have rolled if this would have happened, especially if it would have happened towards the end of Bryan's title win at WrestleMania 30.
Yeah, if like all of a sudden it freezes during radio entrance.
Oh, heads would have rolled.
Yeah. So, I think, so I do know for a chunk of the people, pretty much almost nobody actually saw Rusev's beating on Breeze and Woods. Almost nobody saw that.
If I'm not mistaken, they ended up re-airing it on NXT television the following week.
They very well may have, and I wouldn't blame them. I know a chunk of people got the entire ladder match in its entirety. Somehow they managed to get it back during the intros. I know for a fact I did not get it back until almost the end of the match. Or I should say almost the end of the ladder match. I want to say I missed about 3/4 of the ladder match.
I had no such issues. I watched it on a day delay because the guy I watched it with had to work when the special was airing. So I watched it the next day and was able to watch it in full through the on-demand. But I do remember reading a bunch of stories about people being absolutely furious at the time, saying that if this is going to happen during NXT, imagine what's going to happen during WrestleMania when the demand on the network's going to be even higher and higher and higher.
Yeah, so this was not the most auspicious of starts. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe WWE found a way to expand its capabilities by approximately 10 times in time for WrestleMania 30 because, and I doubt anyone's going to actually remember this, WrestleMania 30 started 2 minutes late. It almost always starts at, 6 o'clock Central Time on the dot. In this case, it started at 6:02 because they had to switch over on their capability to have the extra capability for the live show to make sure that it wouldn't die for anybody. So they would learn to fix it. Thank God. Unfortunately, they did not learn their lesson fast enough, and 4 days into the network's existence, nope. So I ended up having to watch the main event on a delay the next day as well. I wasn't too pleased about that. But I had already known, and sorry, but I'm going to mention it again, I had already known that I wasn't going to be watching WrestleMania 30 anyway. Sorry.
How dare you hate WrestleMania 30?
No.
I know you were. I know you were at WrestleMania 30 live. I get it.
Sorry. So, yeah, Rusev ends up playing second fiddle in this case. However, as we go into our next match, there's some stalling. Gee, I wonder why. So we get one more visit from one more special guest. In this case, it's a man who kind of knows ladder matches as we go into our main event. Ladder match for the NXT Championship, the first ever ladder match in NXT history. So to present the belt, for it to be hung, with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. And he goes off on one hell of a rant, where I'm pretty sure, in this case, Triple H probably told Shawn, for the love of God, go out there and stall. Now, you said you would have thought Shawn would have known he was cutting a promo that day. To me, it sounded like Shawn found out with about 2 minutes' notice when Triple H gave him a microphone, gave him his Blu-ray, and said, dear God, go out there and stall so we can get the feedback up.
No, I think that there's a part of it that they told him to go out there and kill time while they tried to get the feet up. But I would imagine that since Michaels was in Orlando and that's the takeover event anyway, he was probably going to be used to plug the ladder match. And I do believe the Mr. WrestleMania DVD/Blu-ray had just come out as well. So he's probably out there to plug that anyway. But he got into more of an extended time frame with the time that he had inside of the ring due to the fact that obviously the stream capacity wasn't what it should have been.
Fair enough.
So I think he was still there to talk. I just don't think he was expected to go as long as he was.
So let's be honest, he rambles.
He does.
He absolutely rambles. However, he does end up shaking both men's hands, and we are now ready to go. Bo Dallas versus Adrian Neville for Bo Dallas's NXT Championship. At this point, Bo actually still meant something. And he was the longest reigning NXT champion. God help us.
Well, in fairness, he's only the third NXT heavyweight champion at this point as well. He defeated Big E, who defeated Seth Rollins, who won the Gold Rush tournament.
The fact that Bo Dallas was the champion, God help us. Just, Bo at this point is annoying as hell.
And I think it's intentionally so.
Yes. Also,
You're reading
Bo's reign would end up being passed by Finn Balor's.
Bo's reign would end up being passed by the man who would defeat him this night as well. Neville would beat it first, and then Balor would break Neville's record.
Right.
And then Oscar would come in and put everyone to shame. And then Oscar would come in and put everyone's title reigns in NXT to shame.
Can we not talk about him?
I sense some frustration when it comes to Oscar. Moving on.
In Orlando. Anyway.
Carry on.
You know how you mentioned, or how you described Emma and Paige a little bit ago?
Good, not great.
That's the exact same way that I feel you can describe this. It's good, but at this point, Neville was still doing a lot of high-flying stuff, and you don't really get a lot of that. As a matter of fact, you don't really get a lot of ladder stuff overall either. It kind of feels more or less like a traditional match for a lot of it. I don't know if there was hesitation because it's both men's versus ladder match, but
do you think it's also, well, in regards to your idea about hesitation, do you think it's also possible that they were aware of the issues the network was having and decided not to go full-on balls to the wall in regards to killing each other with ladders for something that only the people in attendance might have seen?
At least until a referee had told them, because I'm sure there would have been let them know that, you know, the stream was back up and everyone was watching.
Well, yeah, obviously, but, like, it definitely picks up towards the end of the match, and the coolest spot in the entire match is what I've never seen before, which is when Neville literally springboards in over Bo Dallas as he's trying to climb the ladder and lands on top of Dallas on the ladder.
How have you never seen that if you've ever watched a Shelton Benjamin ladder match?
Shelton didn't never actually springboard over anyone, though. He would just spring from the rope to the ladder.
Oh, okay. That is true.
There might be somebody on the other side of the ladder, but there was never somebody on the side of the ladder with which Shelton landed.
Okay, fair enough. Fair point. Fine. But yeah, it just, to me, the women's title match seemed more intense. It really
You never got a strong sense, and it definitely didn't seem as physically aggressive as the opening contest between Sammy and Cesaro did.
At the same time, everyone could watch the opener and just looked at it, just goes, "You asshole." And just said, "Well, no point."
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. How much of the rest of the NXT roster was probably discouraged by the performance that Cesaro and Sammy put on in the opener?
You have to think some, because it should have been, all right, they set the bar, now let's raise it, or in Cesaro's case, it is the bar, let's raise it. But no one has the real chance to outside of the women's title match. The women's itself isn't bad. And Neville did speaking of the wing after the red arrow on top of Bo, who's lying on a ladder, which in itself is pretty cool. I did kind of like the tease at the end of, maybe Bo is going to end up getting there, but he's not able to make it. But if you're able to get to the ladder, why not just push it over? Why all of a sudden do you want to climb the ladder?
Yeah, I was wondering that same thing as I rewatched the finish here. Is if he's able to make it over to the ladder instead of actually trying to climb the thing, why wouldn't he just knock Neville off of it? But at the same time, we're looking at this through rational thinking. Whereas you got to think these guys are about 16 minutes in at this point. So rational thought probably wasn't something that they were capable of, or at least kayfabe-wise, not something that they're capable of, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad match by any means, but it's nowhere near the best match of the night.
In fairness, that bar was set really high.
Well, like I said, one of the people in the match is the bar.
It's a stupid name for them, so I'm going to go ahead and ignore that.
Doesn't make it any less true.
Still ignoring it.
Still doesn't make it any less true. Anyway.
Let's talk main events of NXT takeovers. Where would you place this in regards to the NXT takeover main events? I like to say this, but I would say it has to be somewhere near the middle/bottom.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I'm trying to think of. All right, so just going for the rest of this year. The next special, which was the first proper NXT takeover, was Neville versus Tyson Kidd. Then the one after that was Neville versus Nick versus Tyson Kidd. Time Reed. Definitely are bad matches by any means, but they ended up getting blown away by the last NXT takeover main event of the year, which was Adrian Neville and Xavier for the title.
Not to mention that one also had the added bonus of the WWE debut. That show had the added bonus of the WWE debut, and then his immediate involvement of the main event scene of Kevin Owens.
Exactly. So, those would completely blow, that. But just the match itself would completely blow away almost everything else on the year outside of maybe the opener for this match. Looking to other main events, I mean, the Iron Woman match would probably rank higher.
I would argue that this is probably, I would say probably, and it's not a bad match as we were saying. It's a good match. It's just the standard of quality that we've come to expect from an NXT TakeOver main event. This is probably up there with the one disappointing Joe versus Nakamura match.
Trying to see. I found the list I was looking for.
The list of TakeOver main events?
Well, the list of takeovers and the list of the takeover events usually includes the main events. And just looking at them, yeah, this one definitely ranks on the lower end. But then you get the back-to-back Zayn and Owens, which actually both of those kind of were stinkers. It would be lower, I think. The Iron Woman match, the trio of Balor and Joe, which those were awesome. Both of the Joe and Nakamura matches, which were disappointments, but were probably still better than this. And then also you had the most recent NXT TakeOver, the ladder match for the tag belts, which I thought was pretty damn awesome as well. So, I mean, overall, yeah, this one definitely ranks lower.
Not to mention the Nakamura-Roode title matches were very good as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, both of them. So I wasn't a huge fan of the second one, though.
Well, my point being here is that, yeah, this match may be towards the lower end of NXT TakeOver main events, but at the same time, it's still going to be towards the upper end of main events we've covered on this particular podcast, just because of the fact that, comparatively speaking here, there was a lot more that they were capable of in doing these kind of matches than there were in, say, for a show that we would have covered in, like, 1991 or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. You know, as given as much criticism as a lot of wrestling gets today, I do still think wrestling is both better and more well-rounded, where it's not just a lot of punching and kicking, like you would find in a 1991 main event.
Like in the steroid era in the WWE?
Yeah.
I know most wrestling fans don't like to discuss that word, but it is a part of wrestling fast.
But don't forget, Hogan's clean, brother. Just like Ultimate Warrior was.
And if you believe that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn for sale.
Much. Anyway. But, I mean, like you said, it's good, it's not great. It's not the best match on the night, which, I mean, we're kind of slowly eating into the big finish anyway with the best and the worst match and our trash of the show.
Yeah, we might as well just go ahead and roll this right into the big finish and start with the best match. And, yeah, we're in 100% complete agreement about this one. There's no doubt the best match on the show, and arguably, if it's not the best match we've covered here on Wrestling Unwrapped, it is certainly in the top 5 for both of us.
Yeah, right. Mojo Rawley versus CJ Parker. What?
Well, Lord knows I'm a Moondew child.
One of us is.
Anyways,
without a doubt.
In all seriousness, if it's not at the top for our overall list once we get to this point in our typed reviews, which we will eventually, it'll be 2019, but we will get there. Yeah, Sami Zayn and Cesaro is by far and away the best thing on this show.
Yeah, that's an absolute, without a doubt, statement to make. If our evolution never happened, this would probably be the best. There would be nothing that could even touch it for almost the entire year. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Wouldn't this actually win WWE Match of the Year or tie with it or something?
It definitely wins NXT's Match of the Year. I don't know if it wins WWE's Match of the Year, because I think they may have given it to Bryan and not Bryan. I was going to say Bryan and Punk, but that would have been 13.
When was Bryan in second?
Huh?
I'm trying to think of the Ziggler match where I think it was Bryan and Ziggler. Oh no, I'm thinking of something totally different. That was 2011.
That was the bragging rights match, and yeah, that's several years before. Hold on, let me look this up.
Because this match is held in very high regard. So, like we said, it's one of those things where you never get a you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and make one hell of a first impression they make here.
But you do get a second chance to recut that phrase.
Shut up. Anyway, have you found the match of the year for them?
I'm looking it up right now, so go ahead and let's get into our worst match.
The worst match, at least for me, is Mojo Rawley and CJ Parker. 3 words. Gas-based offense.
You're really about to hate what I'm about to tell you. The WWE.com list of top matches of 2014 has Sami Zayn and Cesaro listed at 9th.
What the hell's number 1?
I'm getting there. But Bryan and Triple H from 30s above it, which, frankly, I actually agree with. The Triple Threat is above it as well.
Triple Threat. Oh,
the main event at 30.
So I'm trying to think of, I have a hunch I know what it may be. I think I know what number 1 might be.
I think you might be right if you're thinking what I think you're thinking. What are you thinking?
Shield versus Evolution 6-man tag?
No. Cena versus Authority from Survivor Series, Sting's debut.
Oh, that was that year. I was thinking that was 2015. That's a hell of a match, too.
And that's Ziggler busting his ass over the course of like the last 10 minutes to make it work, too.
That's a minute.
It's not even the highest rated takeover match in it for the highest rated NXT match. The highest rated NXT match is a match we talked about earlier in Neville versus Zayn.
Can't say I disagree.
I think I liked Cesaro and Zayn more than I liked Neville and Zayn.
I think more people would have appreciated Neville and Zayn only because of what it had going into it. But with Zayn didn't win, he quit. And it was Zayn finally winning the big one.
Emotionally, God dang it. Emotionally, the Our Evolution match means more. Bell to bell in regards to the actual in-ring content, I think I probably prefer Cesaro and Zayn.
Fair enough.
All right, yeah, you mentioned your worst match is Mojo Rawley versus CJ Parker. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot in the way of competition for that. The Ascension versus Too Cool is what it should have been. It was a chance for the young up-and-coming tag team in the Ascension to steamroll a pair of names that the WWE fans would know. Paige and Emma was really good. It wasn't great, but it was good. The main event was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. Mojo and CJ Parker just seemed to be going through the motions for about 3.5 minutes to get to a finish where, as you mentioned, 3 words, ass-based offense.
So we agree yet again.
Yeah, I don't see us doing a whole lot of disagreeing.
Yeah. Alrighty, time for cash and trash. What is your cash for this?
Well, I kind of teased it earlier. My cash is the commentary of one William Regal.
We're 3 for 3.
William Regal, don't get me wrong, Byron and Tom are acceptable in their roles as play-by-play and color commentator, respectively. Tom for play-by-play, Byron for color commentator. But William Regal stands out as the biggest trash in the show, putting over the importance of some of these people, putting over things like the fact that he talks about how even an old villain like him respects how dangerous Cesaro could be. And if you know the career path of William Regal, that is a very bold statement for Regal to make.
I personally, I also love like the certain ways he would absolutely rip CJ Parker's shreds. Like he was saying, I don't care if there's only 1,000 giant pandas in the world. I've never seen one, so it doesn't really make a difference to me.
I've made it to 45 without seeing one. What are the odds I'm going to see one anytime soon?
Yeah, so yeah, William Regal's commentary was absolutely the case. It was witty when he had to be. That's brilliant when he had to be. He was the only one that actually brought up the proper name of the PTO. He was the only one that brought up the Scorpion Crosslock. So, fair play to him, because my guess is if Tom and Byron were on their own, they never would have gotten that. Not a chance in hell.
Tom maybe, Byron certainly not.
He's not much of an insider if he doesn't know the name.
I think Tom is a much better commentator than people give him credit for. His personal proclivities leave a little bit to be desired, however.
You're on your own with that one, bud.
Here's looking at you, Dinosaur Bone.
Anyway.
Yep, I went there. What up, though? Yeah, I think we're about to agree on the trash as well.
Possibly.
First live special in the WWE Network in WWE Network history, and pardon my language, it shits the bed right before the main event.
Holy crap! When was the last time we went 4 for 4?
I don't know that it's ever happened.
And folks, before anybody actually does message me and say, what a load of crap, of course you guys agreed on everything, we really don't talk about this ahead of time. I think the only thing that we'll ever give remote conversation to is our final scores. But for the large part, we do not talk about it. We may say what we have, or that we may have, what can be it. Just telling each other, oh, I've got my cash for this, or oh, I've got my best match for this. Granted, we kind of both went into this knowing what the hell our best match was going to be, because, let's face it, it's a runaway. We don't talk about this. So for us to agree on all 4 themes is a small miracle. We've done 3. I don't know if we've done all 4 maybe once or twice before. But yes, we agree on all 4.
I genuinely don't think we've ever agreed on all 4 before.
So, but yes, obviously the biggest trash out of this is how in the hell do you make such a big deal out of your first event, your first live event on the network, and then you let it go to crap before the main event? A.K.A. Tyler Breeze's face.
I mean, it did give some fun moments for this particular show, and it led to some pretty funny memes around the time that it happened as well. But yeah, it had to be considered a colossal disappointment, to the point that the WWE actually released a statement over the technical difficulties that they had. And it probably had a lot of people really hesitant to subscribe to the network in time to watch WrestleMania as well.
Now, like I said, they would fix it in time for Mania, and I think while some people have issues with Mania, it was more isolated cases. Because in this case, I want to say north of 90% of all people watching the network for NXT Arrival went down. I don't think it was 100%, though. I think some people said they weren't able to watch the main event in its entirety untouched. But it was like north of 90% went down. That's just, I mean, thank God this was meant to be a test for the network. Thank God they thought to do that. Not a good start. The show itself is fine, but not a good start if you're, live for your live streaming capabilities.
Not to mention its worst-case scenario when it comes to publicity as well, because you had all these people who may have been hesitant or on the fence there. And then with the 7-day free trial, I don't think a lot of people had a lot of reason to bitch about it going down during TakeOver, because that was during a 7-day free trial anyway. But then you're going to ask people to shell out $10 a month, $9.99 or whatever, $10.72 I think it is after taxes.
That's what it was. Thank you, $9.99. I couldn't remember.
After $10.72 after taxes, you're going to ask people to constantly shell that out there, and if you're going to give them a pay-per-view with the performance issues that NXT TakeOver had at the end, you're going to have a lot of pissed-off customers.
not as many as you would have if you had charged full price for TakeOver as a pay-per-view. It wouldn't, I mean, let's be honest, though. It's not like this was the first time a live WWE event had gone down. As a matter of fact, this wouldn't even be the last time. Because I'm trying to remember the pay-per-view where I believe the power went out in the
Beware of Dog.
No. Modern. It was a modern pay-per-view on the network.
The one that I know that you're referring to is the Order one that had happened at, and that was In Your House, Beware of Dog.
That would lead to In Your House, Beware of Dog 8.1, Beware of Dog 2. That was in 1996?
96 or 95 or 96. I want to say 95.
No, it was 96 because I think Shawn was champion.
Oh, and then he would have won it. He would have won it for the first time at 12 in the Iron Man. You're right.
I believe that was like June of 96, give or take. But there was another pay-per-view, more modern, that power in the arena went out, causing the network feed and everything to go down, and it ended up they had to run the pay-per-view past its time because they wanted to give everything. I want to see what's a battleground.
Hold on, I'm hitting the Google machine.
I'm looking too. But the long story short, the entire point of it is this isn't the first time, or this isn't the last time that a live feed would go down, but it's not something that you want that kind of precedent to be set.
The only one I'm seeing was, here it is. Actually, it wasn't a pay-per-view. It was a episode of Raw. Power restored after life. You sure?
I'm certain that there's a more modern pay-per-view. Someone's got a message yet. I know there's a modern pay-per-view with the power went out in the feed.
Major power outage at WWE's Battleground pay-per-view 2013.
2013? It's pre-network. Oh, now my head hurts.
WWE, this is from eWrestlingNews.com. WWE experienced some pay-per-view problems just prior to the start of the WWE Championship main event between Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton at Sunday's Battleground show. As the Orton versus Bryan video package aired prior to the match, the pay-per-view feed cut out and was immediately replaced by a "we're experiencing technical difficulties" message to viewers at home. Apparently, this was the case for all pay-per-view providers, including in-demand and DirecTV.
What was the main event?
Orton and Bryan.
That has to be 2014 then. That's the one I'm thinking of.
No, it would have been 2013 in the build-up to Bryan winning the title at because it would have been after Orton cashed in Money in the Bank on Bryan at SummerSlam 2013.
Weird, because I could have sworn I watched that show. Because that's the one that most likely I'm thinking of. Weird.
The pay-per-view feed returned. Continuing the article, the pay-per-view feed returned after a few minutes. The crowd in the middle of a "We've Got Power" chant, and the explanation given by the announce team was that there was a power outage in Buffalo which resulted in technical difficulties. And then there's images of Brad Maddox on the stage cutting a promo, but those pictures are no longer up because it was 4 years ago, and wrestling, what can you do?
Weird. All right. But either way, it's not a good precedent that you want to set.
No, not for your first network special. That's for damn sure.
luckily, like we said, they would fix it in time for WrestleMania 30. Plus, they would do a bunch of live things the week of WrestleMania 30 as well. I believe they did. I think that was the only year they did WrestleMania Today, which was like special, like 1 hour, 2 hour shows that they would do in the week leading up at Access. So that one I know is true. So, all right, well, before we get out of here on this actually relatively short show, what's your final rating for NXT Arrival?
Excellent opener, two above board matches in regards to the women's title in the main event there. Put this solidly at a 7.5 for me. There would be better NXT takeovers down the road to come, but as far as this being the one that they get the kinks out, it loses points for the issues with the live feed, but at the same time, those issues don't bother you if you watch it on the network now, so I won't be too mean to it. So I'm going to go with a 7.5, and I think that they definitely displayed the potential that the NXT brand was capable of, and obviously as NXT would become more and more mainstream with the bigger names being signed over the course of the last couple of years as well, these takeover events have become basically must-see now.
I mean, the feed, this is one of the cases where you can't really let the feed dying affect your score because we're doing this 3.5 years after the fact. Now, if we were doing this as a Woo Reacts, then I think, this would be affecting the score. However, you really can't let it go like that. The opener is amazing. One of the best matches of the entire year from WWE. The ladder match maybe didn't live up to the hype, but it's not a bad match. The women's match is good, and it's actually great for what it is, given the time frame that we're at. Like you said, AJ Lee had tried her best, but the women's matches were not really improving. So this was a breath of fresh air. The Ascension looked credible. I know, that's an amazing thought. And the other two matches were one of them wasn't even a match. So this definitely delivered on what you wanted. And a lot of people really didn't even know what to expect going in. All they really had on NXT was the 2 out of 3 falls match. So this was absolutely a great way to get back, or to get even more people into the brand. So I'm going to go with a 7, only because I do think while this absolutely stands on its own as a very good show, it's not upper echelon types of shows. Like we said, the NXT shows would actually get better. They've I think they're kind of guilty of leveling off now, but they would get much higher, and I think most people give the peak at our Evolution or Brooklyn 1. So, it's not a bad show by any means. It's a very, very good show, and I would still say go out of your way to watch it just to see, if nothing else, how NXT has evolved from where it began. So I'm going with a 7.
It's funny that you mentioned that, and I'm glad that we finally got around to doing an NXT takeover, an NXT special here, because I don't know if our listeners are aware of this. This is something I've been trying to get Patrick to do for a while, to do one of these NXT takeover events, even if it isn't technically a takeover since it's Arrival, but still. I've been trying to get Patrick to do an NXT event because I feel like NXT is a brand name that a lot of the people that would listen to our show on a regular basis, that listen to that watch the indie stuff that we've reviewed on the basis here, like the ROH DVDs, the PWG DVDs, the AAW DVDs. These are people that a lot of those fans would know. To AAW fans, CJ Parker is a named person as Juice Robinson in AAW. To PWG fans, they're going to know Sami Zayn as El Generico. They're going to know Cesaro as Claudio Castagnoli. They're going to know Adrian Neville as Pac. So these are names that the independent wrestling fan will know, and I feel like this is a market that, in regards to this particular brand, translates to a show like ours.
Fair point.
I'm glad that we were finally able to get to an NXT. Now, why don't we talk about what we're going to have for the people when we come back from our vacation next week? Well, you have a vacation next week, possibly, maybe.
Okay.
You think?
Okay. So,
do you want? Wait, before we plug our next shows, do you want to plug our network and our sponsor before that, or do you want to do it after?
No, let's get that out of the way. So, real quick, as always, Wrestling Unwrapped is a presentation of the WWE Network. For more information, including our written reviews, which we should have one before I leave for my little bitty vacation, be on the lookout for our written review of PWG 3 Mendes, featuring the main event of Joey Ryan versus
B-Boy in the steel cage.
B-Boy in a steel cage match. I was stuck on his name too, and I knew it was him. For the PWG World Championship, be on the lookout for that sometime this week. But for more information and things like that, be sure to check out W2Mnet.com. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Wrestling Unwrapped and on Twitter at WUOffTheShelf.
In addition, you can also find our sponsor online at stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. Inside of the toy chest, you can find everything wrestling related that you might think of: DVDs, action figures, VHS tapes, magazines, posters, and more by going to the Madhouse Toy Chest. In addition, you can find stuff for your non-wrestling needs, such as video games, regular DVDs, Blu-rays, HD DVDs, even has some HD DVDs, old school video game booklets, which have been selling pretty well lately as well, as I understand it. You can find all that stuff by going to stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement here on Wrestling Unwrapped and receive a free gift with your purchase. All right, Patrick, let's talk upcoming schedule.
Alrighty. So, next weekend's going to be a little weird. Obviously, we have the greatest pay-per-view of all time, or at least the pay-per-view with the greatest dance of all time, WWE Great Balls of Fire. Normally, this would be the point where we would definitely say be on the lookout, as we will be he reacts to Great Balls of Fire. However, next weekend is also a very important weekend, Shimmer weekend. And quite frankly, it's a big weekend for Shimmer itself as well, considering what happened the following weekend. But because of what happened the following weekend, the taping of the Mae Young Classic, an after party may not happen, so I may be able to watch the pay-per-view live, so I may be able to post-show. This is all me.
There are tentative plans in place in case Patrick cannot do the post-show. I am talking to my new Raw Reaction co-host, Robert Taylor, about possibly filling in. And worst-case scenario is I will sit in with Sean Garmer and Gary Vaughn for the Wrestling to the Max Great Balls of Fire recap show.
Robert Taylor, so he's addicted to Raw?
Robert Plant, that was awful.
And? Anyway, and then 2 weeks from today, it's my birthday. But we will still be doing a review that night. So as of right now, the plan is we will be doing, there's a tentative plan, but we're not even going to mention that because that one's unlikely. So 95% certain that 2 weeks from tonight, we will be doing Progress Wrestling Chapter 36. We're going to jump into the room again, featuring the Jonathan Falls match of Xavier Jr. versus Tommaso Ciampa. It's also Ciampa's final match in progress. And then the Progress Championship match of Mark Haskins versus Tommy Ann versus Marty Scurll. So that will be 2 weeks from tonight. And then 3 weeks from tonight, we'll react to WWE Loves the Battlefield. Or Battleground, as most people want to call it.
June 30th, stay tuned to your local provider. We'll have more information on that as it gets closer, because frankly, we don't know yet.
When?
July 30th. Sorry, July 30th.
Wow.
I have an issue with these 4-letter months in the middle of the year. Leave me alone.
That start with JU. And then also,
yes.
we probably should also make mention that we do have plans for August already. One day might be a little iffy, but throughout August, we will be doing what we did back in April, right?
March.
Look, I'm tired. Leave me alone. We will be going back and doing what we did this past March, and we will be covering all of August 1998 dates for the Big Three. So we will be covering the Heat Wave 98, WWF, SummerSlam 98, Highway to Hell, and WCW Road Wild, main evented by Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan versus Diamond Dallas Page and Jay effing Leno.
Still not the worst match we've reviewed on this show.
Might be.
Disagree. Kevin Eubanks' Diamond Cutter was awesome. Ironically enough, the Road Wild show is the show in jeopardy due to me being out of town on August the 12th. However, if need be, I may talk to Meisers, Ketza, and Garmer and see about possibly either pre-recording that episode or post-recording that episode to make sure that we can get it to you all.
So yes, we have plans for the next 2 months outside of one episode.
So you know what? Let's open it up to you guys if you're listening. July 30th, since I kind of teased doing this on our Facebook page and never got around to actually doing it, why don't you guys pick our show? July 30th. If you have any suggestions, hit us up at either online at Facebook at facebook.com/Wrestling Unwrapped, or on Twitter at WU Off the Shelf, and tell us what you'd like to hear a review of.
One rule with this, Jason Kunkel is not allowed to make suggestions.
Yeah, no more votes from Jason. He keeps trying to send us back to WCW 2000. By God, that we have a family.
No. That was WWE 2000. He was the one that was made.
I'm Harry Broadhurst.
And I'm drunk. I'm Edric Ketza. Thank you, as always, for joining us for Wrestling Unwrapped as we review NXT Arrival here on the WWE Network. See you in 2 weeks.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.